Welcome once again to Refill 100. The topic of today is philosophy, and this is the title. What is philosophy? What is it good for? And let us start by saying that philosophy can be seen either as a discipline or as an activity. As a discipline, philosophy studies six different areas of human knowledge, namely logic, epistemology, metaphysics, philosophy of religion, ethics, and political philosophy. In this short presentation, however, we will only focus on philosophy as an activity. And this is what we can say about it. As an activity, philosophy can be described in at least four different ways. Number one, philosophy can be seen or experienced as the search for self-understanding. Number two, philosophy can also be seen as the love and pursuit of wisdom. Number three, philosophy can be seen as the search for the purpose and meaning of life and history. And finally, number four, philosophy can be seen as the search for fundamental beliefs that are rationally justified. When taking part in philosophical conversations, discussions, or debates, people always ask questions connected with philosophical concepts such as freedom, values, morality, God, and meaning. Because of that, these questions cannot be answered easily. Rather, they demand serious reflection and consideration. This is so because we all know things that we easily get in life are of little value, while things that are acquired with difficulty and persistent effort are valuable and worthwhile. For example, reading a book is a relatively easy task compared to the long life task of becoming an honest and reflective person. The latter is a real challenge to everyone as it requires effort, determination, and constant and creative struggle, especially if we live in an environment where permissiveness or corruption abound. When seriously involved in the practice of philosophy, this practice gives us a self-understanding that involves knowing who we really are, apart from the masks that we often use to interact with other people, or apart from the social roles that we play in our environment, or apart from the stereotypes imposed on us by others and society. Therefore, self-understanding involves my beliefs and values and makes me aware of why I act the way I do. as well as questions whether my actions result from authentic choices or from taken for granted assumptions or simply from the influence of advertisement and culture. Now, if what I have said is the case, it would seem normal that self understanding is something that everyone desires. But paradoxically enough, that is not the case. The opposite is the case. Namely, self understanding is something that we often try to avoid. For, indeed, it is easier to be uncommitted, self satisfied, and to stick with beliefs that are comfortable and familiar than to be fully honest to ourselves and to submit our actions and deepest convictions to examination. And so we forget that to fully become human and reach authentic self understanding, we need to go through pain, determination, and to make great efforts and overcome thinking and suffering. Now, as we had already said, philosophy is also the love and pursuit of wisdom. Although not many people know, it was Pythagoras who introduced the term philosopher. Socrates only made it famous. Pythagoras was a real philosopher, that is, someone who had a passion for wisdom and was in love with it. By then, by his time, it was already clear that philosophy is not just about ideas. Rather, the cognitive and the emotional combine in the philosophical enterprise. This is something that existentialism really brings up to the fore. Now, philosophy is also the search for that kind of wisdom that will inform the beliefs and values by which we live and which are required by our critical decisions. In that sense, the issues that are important to us, such as religious commitments, moral values, political positions, or careers, are all part of the philosophical enterprise because they all demand our deepest thought and rational reflection prior to our actions and commitments. Philosophy then also deals with fundamental questions such as what is happiness? Does life have a meaning? Is there a God? Do I have freedom or am I determined? How do I decide what is morally right? The responses to these kinds of questions are not easy to find. This is so, among other things, because we have many conflicting opinions about what happiness is and where to find it. Besides, happiness is an abstract and elusive concept. However, the fact is that the goals in life that are most abstract and elusive are in fact the most important to pursue. And it is because we use words such as God, meaning, freedom, moral goodness frequently that we understand what they mean. That is, however, not the case. The opposite is the case. We often use these words without having a clear understanding of them. That is why our lives are often impaired, unclear, and confusing. And yet, those words give us a thin grasp of the concepts that govern our thinking and the way we deal with reality, the actions we perform, and the decisions we make. Philosophy, hence, has to do with asking questions about the meaning of our most basic concepts. In that sense, everyone is a philosopher. For indeed, everyone has some ideas or beliefs about God, how to determine whether a statement is true or false, and what is morally right or wrong. In fact, many of our beliefs are shared by our contemporaries and have been shared by some of the great philosophers in history. In this sense, too, to a large or shorter extent, we all are participants in the activity of philosophy. And yet, one cannot forget that philosophy remains an activity that must be learned and practiced constantly. And so it is in examining our beliefs and the beliefs of other people that we must ask, are our beliefs justified? Do we have good reasons to suppose that they are true? What evidence counts against them? Philosophy, therefore, is also the search for fundamental beliefs that are rationally justified. Finally, an extra point. Regarding whether philosophy is useful and practical, well, it all depends on whether we have a goal or purpose in mind. We need to know what goals, ends, or values are important in our lives to measure whether philosophy is a useful and practical means for achieving them. In any case, it is generally accepted that the studying and practicing philosophy give us important skills. For example, with the practice of philosophy, we learn to solve general problems. We also improve our communication skills. We ameliorate our persuasive powers, and we further develop our writing skills. Besides, philosophy gives us new lenses to look at the world, to ask questions that nobody else thought of asking, to discover creative answers to age-old questions, and to weave new patterns out of the threads of human experience. Philosophy can change you in your growth as a person. Let us conclude these short reflections by pointing out that philosophy is a lifelong journey and experience. It starts somewhere, but it never ends. And, like it or not, with a more or less pronounced sense of awareness, we all participate in this philosophical journey that never ends. Because there are always new ideas to explore and new problems to solve. Let us then continue fostering our love for wisdom and truth. And let us have a great philosophical life. This is all for today. See you in the next program, either on philosophy, religion, or science. Goodbye now.